workshop, genre awareness, personal statement to research paper. My name is Bharat Rathod. I am the Assistant Director of Office of Inclusion and Engagement at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and I am the founder of Bahujan Scholars, this network. Bahujan Scholar is a network of graduate students, faculty, and professionals from outside India. The goal of this network is to support scholars from Bahujan communities and group and one-on-one mentoring, build networks, promote anti-caste research and activism, and organizing online events on academic and professional development topics like this one. So first of all, let me say thank you so much, Nefelli, for joining this session. And the entire series actually planned and organized by Nefelli. And today she is a speaker also. And today's moderator is Priyanshi. So Priyanshi, please take it over.
Thank you so much, Bharat. So I'll start with introducing Nefelli to you, everyone. Nefelli Forni is a PhD candidate in the Comparative Literature program at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where she's completing her dissertation, Migrant Junctions, Migrant Subjects, and the Semiology of Dance Floor in Film and Literature. Her research engages questions of representation in global film and literary studies, with a focus on how gender, sexuality, and identity intersect with migration and legal frameworks, with an emphasis on the intersection of social space and law. She has also published on transnational cinema, neocolonialism, and aging in literature and film, with forthcoming work in law and literature and positions. In addition to her scholarship, she has extensive experience teaching world literature, media, Spanish, and French language courses across UMass, Smith College, and Emerson College. Her curatorial and production work with film festivals and cultural institutions further reflects her commitment to interdisciplinary approaches to culture, politics, and the arts. It's so nice to have you here, Nefelli. I would like you to take over the session from here.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. Hello, everybody. I will share my slides in a moment, but before I do, I just want to say welcome, whether you're here live or joining us on YouTube on the official Bahujan channel to see this recording. I want to start by saying, let me put myself on the speaker view because it's a bit weird. I'm not great with technology, so that's a given, but it's fine. I'll leave it like this and then I'll start sharing the slide. But I'll start by saying that I would like very much for you to ask questions as they come. You can use the chat function, you can unmute yourselves, you can interrupt me. I come from a place where interruptions are okay, they're part of conversations. And if we were on a round table and not on Zoom, it would be very organic, right? For us to say, wait, but so please at least consider, right? Unmuting, interrupting. Maybe I will talk too fast. I get very excited. And you need me to slow down. I heard both Bharat and Priyanshi mention that you can also ask your questions in Hindi or in the language that you're more comfortable with. Please do. We have some time. So I will ask to share my screen if that's okay. And thank you very much. And I want to also let you know that at the end of the workshop, given your feedback that Bharat will share with me, and he already shared the link in the chat and will share it again at the end of the workshop, and your questions, I will tweak a document that I designed for you to have as a takeaway of different resources, books, blogs, articles, etc., on the topic. I like these takeaways, these one sheets, as I call them. I don't know why I put a S at the end, but these are nice. But again, if you have specific questions, you can help me, tweak it to respond to your needs. And having said that, I want also, sorry for all the, the pre-workshop contextualization, but it's very important for me, for you to understand the following about my teaching. I truly believe that learning is what we do every day, and that we're lifelong learners, and we can learn in so many different ways. Nowadays, we have a lot of ways of learning that are extremely accessible. So the reason why Bahujan Scholars work is so important is because what we add to this is the human element. This, you can Google genre, academic genres, you can Google conventions, you can look up very, very good blog posts from universities, guidelines from, journals. You can find this information. But this workshop and this collective is not about information. It's about something a lot deeper. So please take advantage of this. So our goals today are to share ideas and resources to learn how to write for different audiences and purposes. So I want us to move away from feeling maybe like an outsider, trying to guess, like going around in the dark, trying to find something concrete to use in your favor, so to speak, or to help guide you, specifically surrounding genre in academia, to a confident scholar who can navigate different genres with purpose and intent, and even use genre to explore your own voices. So, our agenda today, in a nutshell, because you will see that I will try to reach out to different places, is to define what is genre, then discuss the personal statement, the research paper, and then your voice across genres is what I would like to do today. So what is genre? Genre is a recognizable category across so many fields, right? But now we're focusing on writing. So it's a recognizable category of writing that has a shared purpose, a shared audience, and a specific set of conventions. So as such, it is a social contract between writer and reader. As readers, when we pick up a book, an article, or open anything, material or digital, we have already a set of expectations as to what this will read like. And this is part of the social contract, these expectations that we'll go to. So the three main elements or vectors of a genre is purpose. Why are you writing this when you're, of course, the author? Like, what is the purpose of your writing will define the genre of your writing. Are you out there to persuade? Do you want to inform or maybe showcase how you are fitting to a program, a university, a fellowship, or to explore an idea? Who's your audience? So who are you writing for? Is it an admissions or hiring committee, a journal editor, editors in plural, etc.? And what are the conventions, the unwritten and written rules, right? There are a lot of written rules, which is great, and there's some unwritten ones. So in terms of structure, length, tone, evidence, and citation style, all of these elements are key to first tapping into what are the conventions you will need to succeed in a given genre. So I'm going to just share two sources. I'm also going to send you the slides so you will see the links, the sources of everything that I use. This is a very straightforward flow chart that I like. So you have essays in academic writing, of course, research, position, response papers. There's another genre that is very common depending on where you are in the world and what kind of a field you're working in. And again, what is your position within a program as a graduate student or as a faculty or admin, which are reports. So recommendation letters, white papers, um, annual reports or reports you are offering research, right? You get the fund and then you need to submit a report. Well, that's a whole other genre. And then we have social media content nowadays, of course. So blog, tweets, forums, etc. These sometimes participate in larger writing demands of us as academics. And what I like about this is that it's already introducing something I will return to, which is the fact that here you have stages, right? Here there's a key element of the workshop today, which is understanding how many stages are part of approaching a genre and working through your writing in order to make it as genre specific or again as successful as you want and are after, really, because it's very personal. And to give a note about this, the very personal, you might be surprised to discover that certain academics might actually not want their paper to be published. They might want their paper to receive feedback. Maybe what you want, you're applying for a job that you don't really want, but you want to obtain a job offer in order to negotiate the job you want. Or you're applying to a doctoral or postdoc track. And again, you see where I'm going. Your idea of success is very much yours. And this is, if you hadn't thought about this, and I really hope this workshop gives you things to think about, take a moment to think about that. What is the situation you're in now? And what would success look like when it comes to navigating some piece of writing that you're working right now? So here we have different genres, descriptive reports, just like I talked about. Historical recount, I love because we have so many genres, fields, etc., that demand it, right? Um, so just like all genres, like film or literature, you can also have something that is nested within something else. And the typical stages, classification, description, for example, look at the research report, typical stages, research, problem, method, results, discussion, right? And again, we'll return to this. So, a very important question that I get a lot, especially when it comes to the real power, uh, structure, dimension, and the problematics, really, of genre. I believe that to have genre awareness is empowering because of who you are, what you do, and how you want your voices to be heard. So academia, I believe, whether it's in the United States of America, where I'm based, or whether it's in France, or whether it's in Brazil, is a system built on specific, very often exclusionary conventions. And I believe that when we learn these conventions, we're not, quote unquote, assimilating and erasing who we are. We are strategically, emphasis on strategically, using the tools of the system to ensure that our vital knowledge, our research, our work, our stories are published and heard and shared. And I'm not adding something that you might find, which I find very nice and sweet, of saying that it ensures that your stories are respected, that your stories are published, that your stories are, and no, you cannot control what your reader feels or what your reader does. And that includes a hiring committee or a a process of any kind will have various hands usually reading your work, and you cannot control how they will read it. So I'm not adding the accepting and respecting because I'm not sure that those are things we can control. But to have it heard, yes. Um, and I want us to move away, right, from asking, am I doing this right? To stating, this is how I will communicate my story, my value, my work, my research within this genre. So, really, a commitment and importantly, an intention. So, another reason, of course, is that, or reasons, it demystifies academia. So, these conventions and these written and unwritten rules, part of it is also that it allows to mystify academia, to make it something, oh, nobody knows, oh, we can never, and it's just absurd. So it really reveals conventions as that, as just that. There are a set of rules that we can pin down, that we can follow, that we can use as an organizing principle to move through the different steps of each writing project or process, you know? And that's very important. Have pen and paper is my recommendation. But if you're digital natives and you're fans of the digital world, go for it. Have your iPad and your pencil, whatever it is you're into. But definitely, you're going to want to write down a lot of things during that process. Maximizes impact. So if your ideas are presented in the ways that the gatekeepers, the people who are literally making the decision about whether they will review this article, whether they will consider you as an applicant, or whether they will give you feedback so that you can resubmit your article for publication, they expect to receive, they expect it to look a certain way. I just want you to understand that. To look, to sound, to to feel a certain way. Well, if it does, if you can pin down these conventions and just check those marks, you have more odds of getting those ideas through. Again, we focus on the ideas. And you'll see I have a metaphor I'm very excited for. So we'll get there and we'll see how you feel about it. It protects your voice. So I think a lot of anxiety around assimilating is erasure, like I mentioned in the previous slide, is okay, I'm erasing my individuality, and that betrays my voice. But in fact, I believe you protect your voice when you code switch strategically, because you are doing it, you are in control of how you're doing it, and you're keeping your core identity, which is a concept we'll return to, and your own perspective. Actually, you're not losing it, you're just changing the way it's presented. And it builds confidence, really. So you walk into a writing project knowing what you need to do each step of the way and feeling confident about how you're doing it. And if you don't, if you're, for example, writing a research paper and suddenly it feels like it's getting into an essay form and changing tone, you can be confident in what it means to change that genre, or how you can maybe publish two things using the same idea, the same research, etc. Okay, so here's the metaphor. Buckle up. I think this is fun, but I'm thinking of the writer as a host. So I am a mix, like Bharat was saying when before we started the workshop, of cultures and a mix of nationalities and a mix of a lot of things. For me, writing, when I was thinking about this workshop, and a metaphor that I guess I've used all my life. I've also worked, like you've heard, Lianchi, thank you very much for reading my bio. I've worked in film and in theater, right? You need to adapt, and context is text. We know that. So, okay, imagine you're a host and you're going to cook, of course, for your guests. So, approaching a writing task is like preparing a meal for guests. And your choices will depend entirely on the context of that meal, as you know, because I hope all of you have had one experience or more of either hosting or being hosted. So, who are your guests is the question that answers who's your audience. Are they admissions officers? Are they members of a hiring committee? Are they journal editors, close colleagues, people you know, people you've read, people you have never heard of in your entire life? Who are they? This is like asking, is this a formal, a group of formal dinner guests? Is it family, close friends? You would serve a multi-course meal for some and use your secret spices and tricks to look particularly great in the kitchen, or present a casual salad for others, right? And again, if we return to this idea of assimilating, it's not like you're sacrificing your inner chef if you're making the salad for your buddies, right? It's just you can make a great salad, but your intention and the labor you're going to put in and the way you're going to approach the prep will look very different depending on the guests. What about the occasion? What's the purpose? Are they actually just popping by to catch up? Is it to prove, if we go first with the academic writing, that you belong in a certain program? Is it to demonstrate you want to show that you're a good fit for a job position, or do you want to contribute new knowledge that you're excited about? And this is like asking, is it a wedding, a job interview, lunch, a weekend barbecue? Because the occasion will dictate the menu's formality and the goals. Like, what are we after? Do we want to network over lunch, spend time with family, celebrate a couple's and a family's union? That will, of course, be a multi-course, a multi-day project, or relax and have a good time for a couple of hours. So again, the occasion will change everything. Is it a book review that somebody asks you to write about a book that you've loved? Is it a book review that you have no choice but to review because it's an important book in your field? The occasion and the purpose of your writing will change that writing, and again, how you feel about it and go about it. What are the tastes and dietary needs of your guests? Those are the conventions, actually. So, do they expect a 5 paragraph essay, or this? We'll talk about it also in my resources. This particular structure, a specific citation style. What do they need? What are they after? And this is like asking, are they vegetarian? Do they have allergies? Do they love spicy food? Do they hate it? So ignoring these can mean that your dish and all the work that you've put into the meal prep, like your writing, is rejected, because you'll come out with a beautiful lamb and spicy rice, and they'll say, we're vegetarian and we cannot eat spicy or else we'll be sick for 3 days. So then what are we doing? You presented something with the love and care that cooking demands, and you're hosting with your arms wide open, but your guests cannot actually access, enjoy, or accept what you're giving them. So if I take this metaphor to the max, I would think is about preparation. So it's about planning the menu. So that's an outline. To start writing outlines is a superpower. You never start just cooking. You have to decide on the dishes, which are the sections of your paper, or your research paper, your cover letter, your personal statement, anything. What are the different sections? What is every paragraph saying that will work best for these guests on this occasion? So again, a personal statement will be very different if you're applying for a postdoc that of a year than if you're applying for a PhD of 2 years of guaranteed funding, for example, or if you're applying for a fellowship, or it will change, because every description will ask different things, will have a different profile. And you want to understand that, or else you'll make the mistake of having a very nice personal statement. It was approved by all your colleagues, and to apply the same document to all of these different things, you won't get much feedback, or I would say a lot of acceptance. So you want to gather the ingredients. So do your research, gather your evidence, In this case, think again, you're prepping for that meal. You could like the specific high quality ingredients at home, the ones that you already have, the ones that you would like to replace, etc., that you need for your menu. So now you wrote down what you're going to do for that meal, and you want to attend to everything you need for each and every course. And that's the research, that's data, experiences, citations, etc. You want to cook with technique, so that's the draft. You follow the recipes, structural conventions to combine the ingredients effectively. And you also follow the cooking conventions you need to guarantee the food's safety and quality. So that's an important part we forget because we take it for granted. I think, all take it for granted on automatic. When we're making rice, we take the right instrument to make the rice. We boil the water. We do all these things because we know, because we've already made rice many times in our lives. The same happens with our writing, actually. It's a flow. It's okay, let's go into the draft. What do I need? Here are the conventions I'm going to work with. I put them down, and I work with that process. And then you plate the dish. And this is the revision, this is the editing. You present the meal with intent. So beautifully checking for spills, ensuring every element is in its right place. You proofread for clarity, for tone, for grammar, and you really polish that work. Um, do I have any questions till now, or even curiosities, even if it's not related to this, in the sense, this metaphor? No? Okay. Feel free to ask. So the goal is to create a fulfilling and memorable experience that achieves your purpose and respects your guests, all while expressing your unique skills as a cook and as a host. So your writing and your voice. In order for that shared and collective experience, like writing, to be successful, i.e., again, success, think about it, can look very different for all of us. But for you to enter that program, get that job or that fellowship, have that article, chapter, or book published, you need time. And you need to attend to all the moving pieces, all of them. None is too small. If you cook, again, it's the same. You know that very well. Every ingredient matters, every process and step is significant, and it is important to give care and attention, intent, and time to each. You're not just saying, oh, no, it's fine, the onions can be raw, or I forgot, there's no more cinnamon. No, this is a big mistake, by the way, that I notice when I coach and I mentor, is we're anxious to get to the big. We want the big and we neglect the small. And we do that in our daily lives too. And it's very important. Again, it's a superpower not to do that. Stay with that outline. You need it. Don't just brush it up. No, because a good foundation, if we return back, a good menu, a good set of a confidence in, I need, Priyanshi might have this ingredient, and I need Bharat to give me this, and I know that this place has this rice. You're gonna need time. You're going to need resources for each. And it's the same with writing. You need that book. I know the book. I know where it is. Sure, you might know the book and know where it is, but if you don't have it in your hands, it's useless. So, where is it? That library? How do you get to the library? When are you going to the library? And how long will you have that book for? All these very practical questions can seem like they bog us down as thinkers, as intellectuals, as publishers, as scholars, as people. We're just like, oh, but who cares, Nev? I could go Wednesday or Thursday. Well, I care, because your process will look different, and you will be relating to each of these elements differently too, if you foster a certain mindset. So I want to start with getting practical. So the personal statement, if we profile a genre, which I would also argue could be a good exercise for you, is a narrative argument. We have an audience admissions or hiring committee, And our primary purpose is to argue why you are a unique and compelling fit for a program or position. So here your I, your life, is your primary evidence, and the centrifugal force, as if it were the eye of the storm, really, of the genre, is who you are. So the personal statement is high stakes as a genre for many of us because its purpose is not just to list your achievements. I mean, those we can see on your CV, that's fine. The purpose is to create a narrative argument about who you are and why your journey, experiences, scholarship, research, work, etc., matters in the context of their program, their fellowship, or their position. So here, it is, again, as I said earlier, very important for you to think and reflect about these things. Because one of the workshops that we had, workshops that we had at Bahujan, was taught by Karen Cardoso. And as she said beautifully, and I recommend her to all of us, really, she's a wonderful thinker and coach, but is all the things that we do relevant in our lives relevant. And I have an example actually to show you things. Community is essential. So again, the work that we're doing here, or Bahujan Scholars, is essential. We need people to tell us, oh, Bharat, I think that this thing that you're doing is very much related to this other interest that you have and shows this strength or this particular forte for this profile. So we need conversations, we need exchanges, we need a lot of meditation, reflection on these things. So your lived experience and interests, and here the key element is in a holistic sense of the word. So in a complete form, like professional, personal, academic, vocational, like all of your interests are a unique source, unique really source of insight and your most powerful evidence in your argumentation. So we return to why is genre empowering, because it also taps into what is that voice, right? Who are you when you're like, I want this? Okay, but who wants this and why? So for every experience you describe and include in your personal statement, a very common known model is a so what test. I don't know if you know it, so I'm sorry if it's redundant, but it's, so what does this reveal about me? And this is the example I meant, right? I love doing things in community, for example. And so I organize community events. So what? Well, organizing these events had taught me how to build consensus across different viewpoints and deal with conflicts among a very diverse community, a skill crucial for collaborative research. Or organizing these events brought meaning to the work I do by connecting it to my community. So what? Well, I am collegial and involved in my community. So you see how this works. Let's say it's something non-academic, Nef. Like I love gardening. Very good. You love gardening, then you understand the importance of nature and the environment as an essential element of well-being and quality of life. If you're applying for a certain position of leadership, this will make you a very attuned leader in terms of the well-being of the people that you will serve and guide, right? So you went from my hobby to no, this is a skill and a strength that is relevant. So this work is what I would call connecting the dots. And what's very important is to be explicit. So you want to explicitly link your past experiences to your future goals in the program or in the position or in the project or team, etc. explicit work is labor. This making it, I was um constructing this document for your takeaway today and thinking of resources and reviewing different things about them. And honestly, this is something that I think there's no way about it. You really need to sit down and think about who you are without, of course, without the judgment. I have friends whose entire lives are being indoors and reading books, so they're not going to be the ones writing about organizing community events in their personal statements. You need to think about who you are, what are your interests, what are your values, and then it's kind of violent, right? Because you need to pin these things down and to use words that maybe you're like, I don't like that word, I don't like that concept. Try it out. See, and and all of us here have navigated different cultures, different political and economic and social times. All of these things will impact the vocabulary we use, the values we kind of put to the side, the ones we put to the fore. So it is a delicate, fragile, but also fascinating and exciting work to connect these dots and make this effort. The tone is really something that in time we get more comfortable with because it's a very tricky thing. So, of course, we have conventions of what a professional tone is, what a reflective tone is, but it can be tricky, and for some of us, more or less accessible and more or less comfortable to work in one tone or another. When it comes to the personal statement, it's nice because it has a certain flexibility. You want to be professional, but you also want to be passionate or, invested. And it is okay, of course. I wrote it down to make sure I said it, to show controlled emotion. And depending on the field, it might even be preferable. And there are other fields where I would say it's preferable not to. But this said, your personal statement should also showcase a bit of, like I said, it's the centrifugal force, it's the center, who you are as a person. And the structure is to offer a compelling story arc. So, for example, this is just an example. Again, depends on the field and what we're using this letter for. But the context, my background, and the history of my work, the challenges, if any, or the needs. What are the needs of this program, of this fellowship, of this position? What are the actions, the things that I could do? We can always relate them to that history. How would we grow? And what are the future goals? One of the very, very difficult things about this document as a genre is the copy editing and is the making it concise. So it's a lot of work to explain things, to write everything about my background, everything about, all of these interests. And then you have something beautiful and you need to shrink it into a page or two. And that's very laborious. So it's another important thing to consider is know that A, it's absolutely normal that it takes a long time to copy edit and be concise, and B, that it's a lot of work. And please keep drafts of every single stage of your document. So when it comes to the research paper or article, so we're in a world of another beast. So please again ask questions, any questions. There are no silly questions. Ask them via the chat or unmute. So here we're dealing with a formal argument. This is not a personal life story. The audience, their journal editors, their peer reviewers, their academic communities, especially once you publish your work. So academic community includes non-experts, okay? Interdisciplinary scholars, independent scholars, curious people, experts. It's a large pool of people. And your primary purpose is to contribute new knowledge to a specific field through a validated, evidence-based argument. So your I here is often hidden. Your evidence and logic are primary. I cannot stress this enough. It depends so much on your field. It depends so much on what it is that a research article is meant to do in that field. And it depends if you're writing this paper alone or in a collective or with a lot of colleagues and a lot of people. So everything that I share today will be very much having to adapt, right, to your situations, which I'm very curious about. So if you wanted to share in the chat, if there's something you're working on right now or what your field is, I would love to know. There's a model that is called that they say, I say. This model can also be very nice when trying to learn what these conventions are and how you feel. Can you hear me, everybody? Yeah? Okay. I say is you enter the conversation with your unique argument. So this is the thesis statement. And then you provide evidence. So you use data, theory, references, citations to prove your point. So in other words, prove that you are basing the ideas you're using on solid ground. This seems very basic, right? You might be like, Nef, this is really basic. But actually, it's the key aspect of this genre. So key sections. So you want an abstract, the elevator pitch of your entire paper. This is the paper is about. If I read,
Nef, your voice is breaking up.
my
Your video is stuck
voice
and
is
your
breaking
voice is breaking.
up. Okay.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Um,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Yeah, it's fine now.
Okay. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
So in your introduction, you establish the research gaps and you state your thesis. Research gaps, I'm from the humanities, comparative literature. Sometimes the research gap is this, okay? I'm sure Priyanshi might understand what I mean. It's very, very thin. It's hair thin, and that's okay. And sometimes the research gap, depending on the field, I have a friend in chemistry who's like, the research gap is they use the wrong thing to prove the wrong thing. So it's huge, right? Um, a very cute question that I get sometimes is, so if the gap is smaller, is the paper smaller or shorter? No. And the gap is longer, do you need a trilogy? Absolutely not. Again, it depends so much on your field, but it's kind of fun to think about, sometimes the gaps are of a different nature and a different size. Um, so the literature review is what we mentioned just a moment ago, is that you show that you belong to the academic conversation, or I like this other perspective, that you're in conversation with the field you're involved in. It depending on what you're writing on. Imagine if you're in the English department writing on Shakespeare. You cannot possibly do a literature review or prove that you belong to the academic conversation. In fact, even now, a good example, writing on Nella Larson's passing is what I have been doing. It has so much scholarship on it. So much has been written on passing. Or think of Kant or Hegel. So many topics have a lot written on them. So to show that you belong to the academic conversation can look very different. You can, engage the canon in certain cases, do the exact opposite, engage the latest publications that just came out hot from the oven, or, a mix of these, or again, something completely different when what you want to say is, I want you to know that I'm aware of the publications out there. I'm aware that there's a wider conversation about this topic in my field, and I want to include my voice in it. So the methodology is a very important aspect too. So you want to prove that your research is rigorous and relevant. Depending on your field, it will look different. In my case, close reading is important. But I know that data analysis will be key for a lot of other fields, right? And then the discussion or conclusion. Let me see, I just saw, I will just stop the share so I can access the chat. Okay. So I was just making sure that I didn't have any messages for any of you. I'm wrapping up, so I hope I won't be too fast. So I want to emphasize that you can have a voice across genres. I have published book reviews, I have published research papers, I have published translations, I have published original work, I have published translations of interviews of, you can publish across genres. You really can't. Your lived experience, your research interests rooted in your engagement with the world, your community, your commitments to yourself and to others, etc., all of it informs who you are and how you will engage within each genre. I know it sounds a bit fruity, but it's true, and I mean it. So the personal statement, again, the voice is foregrounded. Is a story of how aspects of your core voice are relevant to a program, a position, or a fellowship. And your research paper, your voice is channeled. It is the application of your voice to create new knowledge. So it's not about changing your voice, but about using the right microphone for the room, basically. So I'm going to leave, if Priyanshi, can I have just a couple of minutes for practical tips? Because I can also share the slides and leave it for Q&A. I don't want to make you or Bharat. Okay. So some practical tips. You want to find examples. So that's a lot of research gets involved in genre exploration, and you will need to explore genres within your field because, again, very specific. So look at personal statements of admitted students. Reach out to admitted students from programs, fellowships, whatever, and ask them. It's very common practice. Articles in the target journal, read a few, see which ones you like, and especially what they have in common. Op-eds or opinion pieces, if that's something you need to write, also book reviews, etc. Reverse engineer the structure. Read them, even if it's just a few. It doesn't need to be an entire journal, publication, like edition. Just take the time to reverse engineer their structure and ask, how did they make their argument? When did they present it? And you will notice that depending on where you work and what your field is, you will find that these conventions are a lot tighter or a lot looser. And, don't just read for content. Read like an editor. Read like you were paid to make this a better piece of writing. So ask, how is the piece structured? What is the general tone? Does it change throughout? Is there humor, or do you feel that if there is a joke, the person risks their job? How is the thesis introduced? How are the arguments laid out? Do they include counter arguments, or do they just assume you would know about them? Et cetera, et cetera. How is the data incorporated and presented? Ask for advice. So this, of course, is a perfect place. You have my email. You can reach out to me. You have Bharat, of course, as the founder and creative of Bahujan. Use peers and colleagues. Utilize your mentorship and community networks. Seek feedback. We're afraid of feedback. And I think fear is what I was telling to Priyanshi too, is holds us back so much. What are we afraid of? That they will go back and tell us, well, your draft was very drafty. Just take a moment and think about when you walk on the street and you look at just something that is a field, they're building something. Do you even imagine somebody going back, the civil engineer or architect, and saying, well, this is not a completed building? Well, of course not. It's obviously a construction site. It's going to be a building, and I'm asking feedback on this specific set of things. Do you think the door should be here or should I put it here? I'm not asking you about whether there's a building or not. So ask mentors to review your work specifically for genre conventions. Is my tone a good tone for this journal, do you think? Or do you think that this, like, am I taking too long with this lit review? A typical question. Is this literature review taking too long? Is the data analysis too extensive? Do I put it in a footnote? Do I put it in an endnote? These are practical questions that change the quality of your work, and you have people around you that can give it to you. So when asking for advice, be very precise. People will be grateful for you, or to you, sorry, for saying, does this sound like a compelling personal statement? Very clear. Yay, nay, yes, no. Here's why not. Make sure you let them know, though, what is your deadline. And have time to receive the feedback means you will attend to it, even if just reading it, because a mistake we make is we ask for the feedback without giving a deadline, or we give a ridiculous deadline 2 days before we need to submit, and we're unable to attend to the feedback before we submit the piece of work. Sorry for the Speedy Gonzalez ending, but this is it for me. I hope this was somehow helpful in one way or another.
Absolutely, it was. It was such a wonderful session. Thank you so much for such informative session, Nephili. Before opening the grounds, opening our session for Q&A, I would like to bring everybody's attention to the feedback form that has been shared in the chat. I'll put down the link again. Please feel free to leave your comments, leave your feedback for Nefelli, for Bahujan Scholars, how we can improve, what sort of sessions you would like to see us present in the future, or if there is any other ideas that you might have for us just to connect, please reach out to us. And with that, I would like to open up the floor for question answers for Nefelli. If you have any questions for Nefelli, please feel free to raise your hand. We'll call out your name and you can proceed with asking your questions. If in case you're not comfortable with English and you know Hindi or even Gujarati for that matter, you can drop your question as a text. You can just let us know and we'll translate it for Nefelli.
Hi, can I ask a question? Hello, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Niflin. It was a wonderful session, first of all. It was really helpful to understand about the research and everything, and the way you connect it with an example. It was really amazing. So, uh, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Thank you so much. I'm very happy about that the example was nice.
Yeah, it was amazing. So, I had a doubt which is related to research paper. When you are publishing, there is something called ethical approval, right? So my subject is sports psychology. So, when I'm conducting research and all, I had already get concern forms from the clients. I had the concern forms and everything with me. But when I'm trying to publishing the paper in some journals, it is saying that I need the approval of institute. So can you elaborate about that? Because I have concern from the participant who I conduct the research, but I do not have the approval of the like I have no idea about it, like India, how to get it, and like I have no much idea. So can you please help me with the idea of like how important it is and how can I get it, or like a brief idea about that?
Yes, absolutely. Your situation is common, and I'm sorry because it's very stressful, especially when it sounds to me that you've attended to everything you needed to do in order to have the consent forms for your publication, and now you have this added demand or requirement. A very sensitive aspect of your situation is communication and how you will communicate the request for that approval.
Okay.
I would actually need a little more information about your situation, but I can at least give you some ideas. So the first thing to understand also is there is absolutely nothing wrong with following up. So with the people who asked you for this institutional approval document, there is nothing wrong with reaching out to them with follow-up questions. So, in other words, if you want to make sure of what that approval would look like, does it look like an email? That has happened to me. It looks like we only need an email from somebody in your university saying, we're fine with you publishing, enter title with X. Do they
Okay.
actually need a signed document? If so, could they send you an example, a template of that? That is also common practice. So you can say, do you have a template of an institutional approval form or consent form that you would want me to consider using? Um, and in your case, institutionally wise, usually, if you have the head of your department, this is the person who would need to give the the
Okay.
institutional consent or approval. But it's complicated because depending on your field, so in your case in psychology, if you are bound to a specific research program, for example, in your institution, it might need to be the head of that specific research program you're a part of. But I
Okay.
just want to be very unambiguously clear. You asking follow-up questions from the people who are interested in your research will not look bad on you at all. And it will
Okay.
never give second thoughts to anybody who's thinking about taking you seriously as a scholar, as a thinker, or publishing your work.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Thank you so much.
Of course. And if you
Uh,
need help with how to email or phrase things, you can email me. I mean, it's part of stuff that I do is that
Thank
kind
you
of,
so much.
of course,
That's
of
so
course.
helpful for me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, it's a great question.
Hello, Nefelli.
Yes.
Am
Hello,
I audible?
Satish. Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to understand, like you have mentioned in some, there is this review of literature. So you mentioned something like they say and I say. So
Mhm.
can you throw more light on it, like what it really means? Because I wanted to understand this.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking, Satish. It's an excellent question too. Um, Let me give you a very clear example of something that I have published. So I published a piece of work that was on I'm sorry, it's kind of a delicate topic. I just realized now. So I'm sorry, it's a warning, it's a delicate topic on sexual tourism. And sexual tourism has been approached in literature in I wish I had a book now about this, but because I'm writing on something else, I don't. Let's say I talk a lot about race because sexual tourism includes neo-colonial dimensions and, race. So here you have a book called Race and Police, right? And the book is Race and Police, The Origin of Our Peculiar Institution by Ben Brucato. And Ben Brucato, let's say, as an example, what he understands is that the police was not there to protect. People think police is there to protect our, well-being, but in fact, they're there to protect order. I'm not saying that this is actually what he's saying, but I'm just presenting an idea for you to understand an argument, which is that the police is not there to protect local people, their rights, and etc. They're there to keep law and order. And why do they need to keep law and order? In order to respond to the state's needs for law and order. When it comes to my work, I'm saying, very good. This is what they say. What I say is that in countries where sexual tourism is an incredible source of capital, there's a private police or even a state-specific police just to protect tourists engaged in sexual tourism. So, for example, in Dominican Republic, Politur. So I'm saying he says this, which is very specific. It's about race, police in the United States, the history, and I say, here is how it's pertinent, and it becomes a very interesting extension of the forms of policing that are there to guarantee that the money and the business of sexual tourism goes smoothly. But I don't know if this was a great example, actually, in the sense, Satish, that I don't know if it helped.
I got it. I
Okay.
got it.
So the lit review can be as short as a paragraph, and it can include, it can be as deep, so to speak, as pages long, because it depends on whether your argument is engaged, like you say, is something very opposite. And now working with Passing, they're very interesting works. Passing is about a woman who's a mixed race, passing for white in the United States of America in 1927, which is a crime. Um, and there's a black woman whom she knew when she was younger, and they rekindle their friendship, quote unquote. A lot has been written on the woman, the black woman, Irene's sexual attraction to Claire, a lot of it. So in my lit review, I can write, here are all the articles, the titles, the authors who have addressed this, and none have written about the fact that she's attracted to basically a woman who looks white. So this would be they say, I say, well, how about the fact that if we do think that, then why don't we write about the fact that she's attracted to a white woman? Is that another example, Satish, that you think could be helpful?
Yeah, I got it. It
Yeah.
is more about personal, like what they think. You don't mention about what they think. It's about what you think about, like whatever they said.
Exactly. And this will frame your argument because this is important. And you're saying, I know what others are writing about this topic, and this is what I want to add. So you might say, and I agree, and I want to add this, or I disagree, and I want to say why I disagree, but that's how you build an argument. And it can be, very cool because articles can be so condensed and dense that you can play around with your ideas and just publish an article on just one little thing, but make it very nice, like you thought it through nicely.
Thank you.
Of course, it's a great question.
It's very interesting that you mentioned about passing, Nefelli, because this was also one of the conversations that we had in our class. And I really applaud you for actually reading between the lines and seeing how Irene was attracted to Claire. Because in the movie Passing, Irene is played by Tessa Thompson, and the director actually just escaped that whole segment. So if you watch the movie, you won't find this. So yeah, as a reader, it is your task to actually read between the lines and then make out the literature review out of it as to how you understand it and how also it supplements your writing, because not everything that is written in an article or even in a book is gonna supplement or gonna be of use to you. So find out what you find is the most useful for your writing, I would say. Do we have any more questions? Let me quickly look at the chat.
I really like what you just said now. I like that very much. To use what yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Thank
will
you.
say, this is about genre awareness, but I also, a topic I love, and I'm saying this to all of you, is in fact related to the questions I received. It's about how to document consent, obtain consent, contracts, publication, and then how to go through all the processes post if your paper has been accepted, for revisions, how do you resubmit it? What does it look like? But that's a totally different topic. I just wanted to say I'm very happy that the two questions I got, I feel, relate to all of this. Because in fact, Satish, it is very common for lit review to be one of the elements that when you get feedback for a publication that they want more of, or that they ask something different from you. So it's particularly great that you brought it up.
Thank you, Nefelli. Thank you.
Okay, I don't think we have any more questions. So Nefelli, would you like to share the best way to communicate or reach out to you with our audience?
Absolutely. So I sincerely do not mind whether you want to email me via the UMass email or the personal email. I use both for this. I meant what I said, so I do mean it. Reach out. I'm regarding the consent, right, or the institutional approval or anything else. Um, it's part of the advice that I gave you, right? Send me an email, ask me a question. I think I answer in a reasonable amount of time. I will be sending you, Bharat, sometime next week, this updated list. I can safely say a lot of the resources I'll include are available online, so you can find even the books online. Um, and they're there for you to use and explore in your own time. I think we are lifelong learners, and also in that sense, we learn again and again how to write and how to adapt. And the world changes, journal committees or editors, sometimes depending on the journal, there are many, there are very few. So I want that very much for you, to feel confident and to be able to adapt to any specificities and changes coming up. So please reach out, and thanks again very much, Bharat, for the invitation. Priyanshi, a pleasure to meet you.
Amen.
And I wish you all a great rest of your day.
Yeah, so a small guy. So please take a feedback form. So we will have your email ID so we can share the resources, and then we can contact in future for our events and other kind of things. And thank you so much, Nefli. And still we have a time. So if you have any question or comment, you can feel free to write in chat box, or you can ask in whatever language, even other than English, you can ask. We will try to figure out something. So feel free to ask. And one important thing I just want to share with all the participants, these events are not just for only academic and professional development topics and discussion. These events are also very important for building your network and building your connection. This is a very, very important thing. Actually, we should all learn. And please, that's why we need your contact info so we can connect you with other people, and we can build our events accordingly.
But that's a good point.
Take a long pause. People can think, they can process, and then they can ask or print question.
I can um, I can put in a question. So, Nefeli, how do you make the final decision of what to put and what not to put? And I know I'm asking you almost the crux of all the whole workshop here, but I'm talking about the nitty-gritties. So, like, let's say I have only 1,200 words. And as a PhD student, even you know that we have been conditioned to write long, long paragraphs and essays. So it's very difficult at some point of time to actually bring it down to 1,200 or even lesser words. So, how do you make the final decision of putting in the right information? As in, how do you decide what is the right information and what is the not so right, or the lesser important um, information that may be or may not be just done away with?
So I love that question. And I would love to meet you in person when I go to DC next time.
Absolutely.
So I love footnotes, by the way. Mamma mia, I love footnotes like crazy. I used to work in a bookshop for many, many years, my father's bookshop, and I almost bought a book that was titled Footnotes and I thought, no, we need to stop. This needs to end here because there's another story, there's another book in that footnote. Or in these references or endnotes, right? And you know this too. Depending on the academic book, the end is thick, right?
Mhm.
And you have a world of other things that are being said there. But that wink, wink aside, I think it takes um, it takes a tremendous amount of time to do it, a tremendous amount of time. And for me, something that helps me personally is thinking of my reader again and again because I'm very vocal. This is terrible. I can't believe I'm saying this um, in a on academic writing workshop that is recorded, but as a very vocal person, I do actually think vocally too. So I think if I were to meet with Priyanshi and to read this out loud, which I do, I read out loud and it helps me a tremendous amount. What could I sacrifice? And that helps me a lot because then I really focus on storytelling more than anything else. What is the story that I'm trying to tell? And what are things that I can rely on Priyanshi, like you were saying, reading between the lines? What are things that I can rely on her checking that footnote and understanding the other line of thought that I'm not exploring? Um, but to, for me, it takes so much time to do it, to make these decisions. um, but then when I do decide is when I feel that it's all there. It's kind of weird, is when I reread that paragraph, and tight writing for me is when you have both the said and the unsaid that is there. Um, but I don't know if I answered your question really.
You absolutely did.
Okay. So it's a long it's a process. I have now for an article that I'm very happy that I published because I really love it. I would say it is 1/5 of everything that I wrote that was typed and
Mhm.
written, and it's 1/5. Um, you know,
Thank you
so
so much.
a lot is cut out.
Yeah,
It's a crazy amount of things.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's a crazy process in itself. But
yeah,
thank you so much. That was a
of
wonderful.
course, of course.
Do we have any questions?
You can ask me other things too, not genre related. Bharat is like, oh no. But I mean, not, I don't know, I think that I could answer different questions.
I think then we can conclude, Priyanshi, because there is no question. Unless,
No, sure.
Nepali, if you want to share something, last point or some
Okay.
unique comment, whatever.
Okay. Well, before we go, but let's go. I just want to say something that I really, really mean. And I thought this is where Priyanshi was going, so I thought that was kind of interesting. When I talked at the beginning about success looks different for all of us, you need to understand that the same gatekeepers that I mentioned during the presentation are the ones that are going to give you feedback in order to decide whether they approve or do not approve of you, whether they give you or do not give you an offer to enter a program or to whatever, to get a position, etc. And you will find yourself, I think, again and again, we all will find ourselves in situations in which you have to make certain decisions in order to attend to these demands. So let us be unambiguously clear. You get feedback from a peer-reviewed journal, and they're asking you to do things, and you'll have to make the decision of whether or not you will do them. Now, this is very important because you need to understand that the million-dollar question is the one at the beginning of the workshop. What do you want? What does it mean to you? And therefore, be careful not to walk a line in which, again and again, you are, in fact, erasing yourself and sacrificing what you do want to say and what you do want to share to the world in order to respond to specific gatekeepers. Don't worry. If they don't want your work, somebody else will. It might not be today. It might not feel right. We all feel weird when we feel rejected, but it's a good thing because at the end of the day, what you want is to find the place that wants your voice, the place that wants you, not that wants to change you or that wants to, tokenize you or that wants to, etc. But that is a difficult walk to walk. It's difficult, but I just want to say it's part of it. And so with genre is the same. You're attending to these elements. You want to be the best host, and we all do. But when the experience goes sour, you need to know when to leave the table when love is no longer being served, right? So respect yourselves, respect your voices. You have the right, it goes without saying, to do what you do and write what you write and present yourself and put yourself out there. And in terms of the institutional approval question, things can come easy and things can also come harder, and that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes we need to fight for things more, sometimes we need to wait for things longer, and that's okay. So those are some things I wanted to share. And again, thank you very much for giving me your time on a Sunday. I really hope that you do reach out with any questions, or I copy edit emails. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I love that stuff. So please do reach out. And have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Nefelli. This session has been wonderful, and it would be so fun to meet you in person for sure.
Yes, I would love to. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so
Bye,
much. Bye.
everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Thank you. Bye.